Hi, everybody. Welcome back to theCUBE's coverage, live coverage of reInvent 2025. We're here at the Venetian in Las Vegas. Wrapping up day 4, I'm Dave Vellante. Excited to have Chris Grusz as the Managing Director for Technology Partnerships at Amazon Web Services, and friend of theCUBE, Mike Gannon, who's the CRO of Snowflake. Guys, great to see you again. Thanks for coming in.
Always good to be here, Dave.
So, wow, it's a long week.
Where do you start?
It's been an amazing year, right? I mean, wow, it's just incredible. reInvent is always the highlight of the year. It's like our Super Bowl, we call it. And you guys have been working together for a long time. What's the show been like for you, Mike?
I'll tell you my perspective. I've done the Dell Worlds, I've done VM Worlds at reInvent. This is just a whole different level of energy and excitement. So this for me is an incredibly great opportunity to be here. The amount of innovation, the excitement, the attendance, it's nothing to be your with.
And Chris, the ecosystem's always been a strategic advantage and a lever for AWS. And your two companies, both of you came into this Gen AI era and you said, okay, we've got our existing customer base we have to satisfy. Now we've got to bring in Gen AI to the fold. We can't just bolt it on. We've got to sort of rethink the entire stack. So you're living that in real time.
Absolutely. I mean, when we look at Gen AI, like Gen AI doesn't work without data. And so you have to have good data partners to make that happen and make that a reality. And that's what we're starting to see that's really occurring in the industry. There's been a lot of experimentation going on. And if you watch a lot of the keynotes, what we're really starting to articulate from an AWS perspective is that these production Gen AI workloads are now landing on top of AWS. And a lot of that is because we have a very rich data story between what we do with AWS, but also with our top partners like Snowflake. And so that's why you're seeing more and more customers turn to that combined solution to really go into production for these types of products.
Yeah. So it's always been a leading partnership, an example of co-opetition. Of course, Amazon has data products, Snowflake has data products, but Snowflake was always, I've called it the poster child for how you complement each other. You've made an announcement, $2 billion in co-sell.
Yes,
right?
Doubled. It's an amazing feat.
Give us the details there.
Yeah, so I mean, a year ago it was $1 billion in revenue through Marketplace. We've crested $2 billion in Marketplace this year. One of the things I brought into the business was an elimination of comp neutrality. Right, so my sellers are absolutely incentivized to bring contracts through Marketplace. So we're seeing an acceleration of revenue going through the Marketplace. Now, that's just on the financial front. But if you look at all the hard work our engineering teams have done to make sure that we're not just delivering a great solution from a Snowflake perspective, but an integrated solution for our joint customers, that's where I think this relationship is separating itself from the pack. So the joint integration, the delivering the things and the integration with things like Catalog and Glue and Bedrock, I mean, that's where customers are really leaning in. From an outcome-based selling perspective, we're meeting them where they are.
So, Mike, you said elimination of comp neutrality. I'm inferring that you brought in comp neutrality. Explain that.
There is no friction for us to bring transactions through Marketplace. In the past, there was. So, I eliminated that, and that's a big part of what I think is an incredibly rich element of a healthy partner ecosystem is there's no comp friction. Yeah. So that's one of the first things I brought to Snowflake was an idea of there should never be friction from a compensation perspective when trying to get our partners to exceed more. So by doing that, you're seeing acceleration of revenue.
So a seller doesn't care where the business comes from. And so when you do something like that, you've got to understand the economic impacts, obviously, to the company. So that's just not a trivial wave of the wand.
This is an investment we're making in the partnership, for sure. This is not free, but it's important because, again, that also fuels more integration because customers start to accelerate and lean into the partnership. So, yes, there's a bit of a cost to us operationally, but when you see the gravitas and the pull it brings into from a customer perspective, we reinvest in more and we see higher volume.
Yeah, it gives you confidence for that. And I first heard about Snowflake in mid last decade. Yeah. George Gilbert, one of our analysts, said, you got to check out this company. This is going to change the way data is done. And then we've seen the ascendancy of both your companies over the years. The other investment you guys make is in integration. So talk about the engineering work. It's not just Barney deals that you guys are doing. What are the areas of integration that you're focused on?
Yeah, I mean, you don't get to do $2 billion overnight. And so the history that we've had with Snowflake goes back well over a decade. Like if I look at Snowflake and just the relationship we've had between Snowflake and Marketplace, like Snowflake was a launch partner when we launched SaaS on Marketplace. When we needed to design a new pricing table for our private offer business, it was designed specifically with Snowflake. And then you fast forward to when we launched SageMaker, we saw a lot of customers wanting to do algorithms and models combined with data. We created an integration with SageMaker, Data Wrangler, and Snowflake that's been very successful. And then you fast forward to what you're seeing today And when we launched Amazon Bedrock Agent Core, Cortex agents from Snowflake are available to run inside of Amazon Bedrock Agent Core. And that includes their Cortex agent for financial service. So if you want to do financial service reporting, they've got an agent to go do that. And so it's a decade-long list of integrations. And then you fast forward to where we're going, and you're seeing more and more things like you mentioned the glue integrations that really provides kind of this federated approach for data that might be sitting in both AWS and Snowflake. And then, of course, really taking this out on a global level. And so Snowflake has already declared that they're going to be a launch partner for us in the European Sovereign Cloud. And so when you put all that together, where you got these integrations, you got this great go-to-market on a global basis, that's how you get to the 2 billion. Like it's a lot of hard work to get there, and there's a lot of steps to make that happen. But that's the history between Snowflake and AWS.
So you guys are doing sovereign cloud with are you breaking what Frank Slootman said to me? We're not doing on-prem. No, he didn't say that. We're not doing hybrid. It's really not hybrid. It's really cloud.
Yeah.
Matt Garman yesterday said, think of it as like Outpost on steroids.
Yeah.
And so that's really what it is. He's taking the cloud and saying, okay, we're going to put it, in this specific location. What are the details there? What are you guys doing?
I mean, for us, what's most important, especially in European markets, GDPR, making sure we've got good governance and compliance around the data that's sitting in our joint instances. That's what most of these foreign states are most interested. So from a sovereign perspective, everyone defines it a little bit differently, but I think it's maintaining strict governance and compliance on the data that's sitting in these clouds and make sure that they've got the right controls in place so they can deem it sovereign.
Yeah, and this is a big, kind of area for us as well. Like this goes back to what we did originally with GovCloud, which was a dedicated region for U.S. customers that were running non-classified workloads. When we won our C2S, C2E contract, those introduced those air gap marketplaces, and so sovereign data requirements are not new to us, and I think candidly it's starting to accelerate. And so it's great to see Snowflake as a launch partner as we get towards that launch, which is a little unique in how we've done these launches. Historically, AWS would launch a region, and then the partners would come in 6 months after. And we're taking the inverse approach with European Sovereign Cloud, where we're working with partners like Snowflake so that when we launch, their day one as well, so that our joint customers are ready to go at the same time.
Well, I remember GovCloud well, and I remember reading Judge Wheeler's ruling on the lawsuits that were filed, which was pretty amazing. And Mike, you remember, you were kind of the working in the VMware EMC world back then. Carl Eschenbach, famously said bookseller and all that.
Yeah.
And then, but that was a key moment in the history of cloud because, well, wow, if it's good enough for the CIA.
That's right.
And of course, we just saw, I was at St. Louis a couple weeks ago, meeting with your quantum team, and we got the embargo on the $50 billion investment in top secret, and R&D cloud.
Yep.
The reason I bring this up is because Matt said something, and it wasn't, nobody said it's on NDA, so I'm going to share it. We asked him about sovereign cloud, and he said, we're taking a different approach than our competitors. We said, well, what do you mean? And he said that we did the engineering and the hard work to make sure that we can't get to the data that's in a sovereign cloud. So if Donald Trump asks me to give him the data, I can't. He's going to have to put me in jail because I can't give him the data. So I didn't realize this, but his claim was that's unique in clouds. I don't see how you would be able to do a sovereign cloud without that capability.
I don't think customers would trust your data in a sovereign cloud
Especially
without
in
the capability, especially in Europe.
Right.
Most definitely with the geopolitical things happening within the administrations. I mean, you've got to assure customers that the data is safe, trusted, secured, and impenetrable. So especially when you think about some of the things we're doing with some of the agencies in the U.S., I mean, getting ILM 5 certification takes a lot of work and engineering rigor to get there. And when you get there, you're trusted with some pretty sensitive information. We're not done. We've got to get to ILM 6 and 7 levels of clearance. So we work hard to make sure that companies like the U.S. federal government feel secure with that data. But that takes a lot of work and joint engineering. We're not operating in silos.
Yeah.
But this is a global, durable trend that you guys see, the trend towards sovereign. Is that fair?
And we see it on multiple levels, even like from a marketplace perspective. When we go to markets in different geos, like they want to have a local entity so they can do local taxation, local currency, local currency fluctuation. That's really becoming table stakes for our marketplace business. So you can no longer just have one global offering. So earlier this year, as an example, we launched a local operator in India. And so now if you're in India and you're buying through AWS Marketplace, you can be buying Snowflake through AWS Marketplace. It's going to be transacted as a local entity in local currency. And that's very beneficial for a number of reasons, including it reduces the currency fluctuation risk to someone like Snowflake. Other marketplaces actually don't have that capability. So if the dollar either strengthens or declines, either the buyer or seller actually get exposed to that risk. But because we have a full local entity in all these markets, it actually reduces that risk. And so it actually allows us to move faster on an international basis with partners like Snowflake.
And I can't tell you how important that is for a company like Snowflake in where we are as a company to be able to scale through a partner like that. Those are the two things that, coming into this business now 9 months in, I need scale and velocity. Scale comes through partnerships like this. So the dependency on local currency conversions and that marketplace, that's why these partnerships are so important. And that's why I'm willing to make those investments to take us from 1 billion to 2 billion because of the cost that they save in making these investments.
I do wonder if I understand the need, especially in this political climate, that we want a sovereign cloud. We wanted to reduce those risks. I do wonder if there's another trade-off, though, that countries and organizations are going to see where maybe they don't get the latest and greatest right out of the chute, and they're trading that off. And I wonder if there'll be organizations or governments that say, you know what, I'll take the supposed risk, and I'll just use the cloud that's the latest and greatest. That would be... I would push on that internally in a discussion. Like, let's evaluate that risk. Let's peel the onion on that. Do you ever hear those conversations, or is it no? Just give us the fenced-off cloud.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's how we look at it from a marketplace perspective. Like that stuff, oftentimes, like if you talk to a large SaaS ISV, they don't really want to spend their time, take their best engineers to go figure out international taxation. Like, what's the local taxation, situation in Japan? And from an AWS Marketplace, that puts us in a very unique position because if we provide that as a value add, that allows the partners that are building on top of AWS, like Snowflake, they can focus on their IP, right? Because no one's ever going to say, hey, our IP is that we've got a world-class tax engine. And if AWS Marketplace can start to do more and more of that internationalization so that they don't have to go figure that out anymore. It's just like localization of the content. Like they want to focus on what's making the data warehouse experience world-class instead of figuring out, what's that taxation platform or localization. And so we see that as massive value add for marketplace. So it might not sound as the most exciting thing, but it's something that drives a lot of business value for the ISVs that sell through marketplace.
Well, what about security? That's another hot topic. What are you guys doing together to make our lives safer?
Yeah.
I mean, security is the epicenter of, certainly from a data perspective, our entire architecture is built on making sure data is secure. So it is at the forefront of everything that we build, design, integrate, and partner with. If we lose trust and credibility from a security perspective, we're toast. Data is the most incredibly important asset to most corporations, aside from obviously their people. So I will tell you, we put rigorous standardization around not just our IP, the trust center, the enterprise-grade resiliency we put into our environment. Things break from time to time, but the ability for us to seamlessly fail over instances from east to west and keep customers' businesses running, it's not a form of security, it's a form of business continuity. That's the kind of enterprise-grade interaction and interoperability customers expect from companies like Snowflake and Amazon.
And at the same time, everybody wants open table formats, and they want, and that brings in new governance models, which is sort of antithetical, Mike, to what you just said. So, but you've got these countervailing trends, and you have to serve both needs.
Yeah.
So,
well, if we do our jobs right and we make it easy to get data on the platform and also easy to get data off the platform, we have to completely surround our customer with value. And we have to revalidate that value every day and make sure that we earn the next workload, but also maintain the workload. So that's the game we play, is making sure customers are enthralled with the experience, the outcomes we're delivering, the performance, the reliability, the security. Give them no reason to ever want to leave. But that open table format is incredibly important. I think iconic companies like us are driving that because, at some point in time, TCP was important to make sure that we can send packets, indiscriminately between networks. You got to build standardization, and companies expect us to be able to deliver that.
Yep, absolutely. And as you've heard multiple times, like AWS always has security in mind when we build anything. Like that is foundational to every single service that we do. And so it gets built in from the ground up. It's not a bolt-in type of approach from an AWS perspective. And then we're going to obviously have our shared responsibility model that we've adhered to, where we will secure the physical assets all the way up to the hypervisor. And then we provide native AWS services as well as third-party solutions that will run very well on top of AWS. And then supporting open standards. So if you look at what we've done with OCFS, where we've really standardized like the signals that are going across all these different security providers, so that when our customers really need to figure out what's going on, they've got a standardized approach to do that. And if you saw what we did this week as well with Security Hub, we're now actually allowing third-party signals to be ingested and displayed directly into AWS's Security Hub. So you can be a customer using AWS services, or you can be using AWS security services alongside third-party products like a CrowdStrike or a Palo Alto, and now a security administrator can actually look at that side by side. And so we always design our solutions with partners in mind, because oftentimes this is a team sport, and so it is a balance. You want to have that openness, but we also want to provide all the capabilities possible so that our customers can secure whatever they need to do while they're running on AWS.
Was that new, Chris? Because I thought I had heard that before. Maybe I thought I had heard that at Reinforce, but maybe it was just announced. And now
we announced it under preview at Reinforce, and then what you saw this week is that we actually announced a number of vendors, like a Dynatrace as an example, being available in Security Hub. And so now it is out there and ready to go, and we're really excited about that. It's great from a partnership perspective because it just shows the AWS commitment to working with partners, where we're actually putting them directly into our console experiences so that our customers can work side by side instead of having to go to multiple console experiences to do the same thing.
Yeah, we had Rick from Dynatrace in here, CEO of Dynatrace in here earlier. He was talking a little bit. Those guys won an award. You guys won some awards.
14. Who's
14. Okay, more than a baker's dozen. 14 awards. That's
14
pretty impressive.
awards.
Wow.
The two of which we're most proud of is, third consecutive year as Global Data Analytics Partner of the World. But the Gen AI Award, I think, was the greatest recognition. And we were putting our hearts and engineering souls into making sure that we are an essential AI data cloud platform. So getting that recognition from Amazon, which we think the market votes on, we're extremely proud of that one.
How do you balance? It's just curious, right? Because I always laugh at the industry narrative. Oh, AWS is behind in AI or whatever it is. Snowflake's got to catch up, and I think that comes from you've got an established, entrenched base. Everybody thinks about the innovator's dilemma.
Yep.
But I'm curious for each of you, culturally, how do you sort of inculcate the organization with, okay, we're now in a new era, and it's not a pivot as much as a sort of a line extension, if you will. What was that like in each of your companies? I know you're only 9 months in. Maybe that was part of the transformation, was bringing someone like you in.
Well, I'd say, I'm a small element to that, but if you look at what Sridhar has brought in, the culture that he's inspired across every facet of the organization, AI is playing a role across go-to-market, product engineering, how we're using AI for code development, how I'm using AI for go-to-market, SDR-type functions, top-of-funnel, outreach programs, Gen AI. I mean, we've increased, with Gen AI, 30% more touch points from a top-of-funnel perspective. We're using AI in every facet of the organization. So when you build it into the culture, right, it becomes all that much more effective when you're in front of a customer talking about the things we're doing to drive transformation and letting customers know, like, hey, this is a journey we're on, and we're in the early innings of AI. And I think most customers like to hear that, okay, you're stubbing your toe just like we are. What did you learn throughout that process? So I think it's a cultural element that has to start with the executive levels and work its way down.
Well, Sridhar, we always said, was a wartime consigliere and CEO. So is Matt. I mean, right? I mean, Andy got involved. Andy was here last year, saying, no, we're not behind in AI. We're leading AI. Yeah. And it's interesting to see the approach that AWS has taken, not trying to pursue Messiah AGI, we call it sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Let the LLM vendors do that, but come up with sort of practical approaches. But culturally, what's
absolutely, and that weighs into our strategy. So if you look at what we've done with things like Bedrock, like selection has always been a core element of what anything across Amazon has done, not just AWS, but all of Amazon. Like the reason why Amazon is so successful is the everything storage. You can get whatever you want on there. And so that same philosophy comes over to AWS. And you see that, really manifesting itself in things like Bedrock, where we don't not only have our own foundational models, but we have third-party models there as well. And we feel that one model will not rule them all, and so that's why you're seeing this propagation of large language models, small language models, and the models are getting very specific in their functions, whether it's video or it could be text or it could be all kinds of different things. You're seeing just this explosion of models to go do that, and so our strategy with Bedrock, where you have that selection experience, where you have first party side by side with third party, is really starting to play out as the winning strategy. And just in terms of internal consumption, we are continually asked internally, how are we using, effectively drinking our own champagne? And so, Matt Garman on down, they expect all of us to look at each of our individual businesses and say, how can you get more efficient? And so if you look at the AWS Marketplace as a great example, it's a catalog of 25,000 listings, and anytime a seller needed to make a change, they would submit a request to go in a ticket, which is a pretty standard process. We actually took our entire knowledge base, loaded it into Anthropic in that case, and we created an agent that effectively could read these incoming tickets and provide a pre-populated response to the seller. That ticket queue on average had 7,000 tickets in it. The first week we implemented this, we wiped out all 7,000 tickets. And so now those same people that were doing very rote, mundane, kind of answering the same question over and over are now able to work with our sellers on much more complicated things. And so it's allowing us to really move the innovation forward, because we don't have to do those mundane tasks anymore. So that's just one example where we're using it internally, and that's the push that we have across all of Amazon.
Well, it's interesting too, Mike, you're saying it's early innings for sure. When you talk to companies it's more like dog fooding, frankly, than it is drinking your champagne, I have to say, because it's hard. I mean, when you peel the onion on what companies like Amazon are doing with AI internally, JP Morgan Chase, Dell, they're having to get really down and dirty with their data. And I think this is why some of your customers are having success. The MIT study says 95% of these AI initiatives are failing. It's because their data act is not together.
That's right.
And I think when you talk to Snowflake customers, they're like, yeah, actually, our data's, bringing AI to our data is pretty straightforward. We can get real value out of that immediately. Now, they have a bigger vision of building this digital enterprise, and it's early innings in that regard. But where the data is in good shape, there's success, isn't there? But that holy grail, that's why I call it dog fooding.
Yeah.
When you look at what has to be done to get there, it's daunting to a lot of organizations, and it's going to take some time to build solutions.
It can be overwhelming, but we just made this launch, Snowflake Intelligence, where you can literally put in the hands of a CFO or a CEO a prompt using natural language to say, hey, I got a question. What's my most productive retail office in the globe, right? And it'll get a response instantaneously saying, hey, it's this particular office in Singapore on this corner of this block. The anxiety level drops when you say it can be that easy, just using natural language. Now, that then inspires, okay, what other data elements do I want to bring into my Snowflake instance so I can have more interrogating questions about it versus being reliant upon a fixed static dashboard. So, when you show the realities and the power of putting this kind of technology in the hands of an executive versus it only being in the hands of an analyst, it's a material different game. And again, whether you're using, Grok, ChatGPT, Perplexity as a user, I want to have that consumer-grade experience using trusted enterprise-grade data.
In Snowflake Intelligence, we sat through that demo and the briefing. It was very impressive. Your ability to talk to your data.
It's great.
Was much better than we had expected. So that's good, and I give you high marks for that. I think what I'm referring to is, okay, that in the analytics world, I think you guys are making amazing progress. And I'm just imagining what else is possible. And when I talk to people who are doing things in the Amazon.com supply chain, it's amazing what they're actually doing. But to get there, they had to do some serious heavy lifting. So you nail the analytics piece, and that's going to feed now. I guess I'd say it this way. We're really good at what happened and pretty good at why it happened. We're not quite at what's going to happen next and what should I do next. And that's sort of a next wave of opportunity.
Absolutely. And like a good example where you're actually starting to see that is AstraZeneca. So we're working with Snowflake as well as SAP. And you obviously have 3 very large data sets that go into that. And AstraZeneca is looking at how do we do better predictive information on cancer. And that data is residing in 3 very large systems. And we're actually working together to combine that data from a generative AI capability so that we can actually do that with AstraZeneca. So that is actually happening today. That's where you're starting to see these things actually get into production And the ability to have that generative AI capability on top of all three of those systems is what's really enabling that.
Right. And that's less engineering requirements for customers, because in that exact example, 3 discrete pockets of data that each have its own unique value to the business, but not having to centralize it all and move it all.
Yep.
Keep it in its natural form, but run an agentic workflow that basically will dip into, right, the SAP instance, the Snowflake instance, any other third-party instance, and get a great business insight and outcome. That's what it's all about. Again, meeting customers with where they are, but using these open table formats to give you that experience without having to massively move a ton of data throughout the organization.
And that's important, because you're not going to move the data. But still, the underlying data model is critical. I mean, you mentioned SAP. One of the reasons why SAP was so successful is because they had all these people in Germany building the data models, and it was like, and they were really good at it, and it was hard to do, but they got that probably right better than, for sure, it proved out better than anybody else. And so now it's the data model, but bringing in process.
Absolutely.
And that's where it gets really hairy and interesting. And
Yeah.
you guys are all thinking about it, and you get the best people working on it. It's pretty exciting. Your customers are all thinking about it as well.
All it takes is a creative business mind to say, hey, what if? Run me a what if scenario, and being able to get an answer, and then just keep iterating on that, versus needing a data scientist to figure that out for you. And I think that's what this AI era is all about. Again, early innings, but boy, the future's so bright.
Yeah, like, I mean, the Warner Music example is another great one, where they have Snowflake as their primary data warehouse, and what they're doing is anytime a song is downloaded off of a different music site, it's all recorded into that into the Warner system. And so now they can actually go back to their artists and say, hey, here's where your music is actually getting downloaded. Here's when people are stopping listening, so they can actually see, okay, maybe they don't like this part of the music, and they can actually inform the artist on where they're actually losing customers. And that's a combination of both Snowflake as the primary piece, and then obviously there's an integration with AWS as well, using Apache Glacier. So, those types of solutions are coming together where it actually informs even, it's kind of the opposite of the AstraZeneca case, right? They're not solving cancer, but they're helping musicians create better music for the world.
That's an amazing example. It's to do that at scale is non-trivial.
Yeah.
All right, we're a year from now. Where do you guys want to be? To 3 billion, 5 billion? No,
4 billion. We want to double it again.
Exactly. Well, you saw
Chris would like that.
We're a $132 billion company growing at 20%. So you can do the math. We got to add 26 billion this year. So, we've got high expectations. That's Andy's expectations for us as well. And we think that it's really going to come on what's going on with generative AI. Like the ability to create these agents actually allows us to work better together with our partners. And what you saw with having those Cortex agents within Agent Core, you're going to start to see those types of things really explode with our customer adoption. So we're really bullish on our position. There's been some awesome announcements this week, and we think we've got a very exciting year ahead of us.
We're in a great industry, right? I mean, I think the top 3 or 4 clouds are probably $275 billion this year, and the growth rates on all 3 are accelerating, which is insane.
Yeah.
The industry's mature, right? They grow at 20%, and then 10, then 3, then single digit, then they kind of decline. Not our industry. It's like technology's just permeating everywhere.
Yeah.
Just getting started. Scared to think we're just getting started.
Right?
Absolutely.
Start to get the physical AI and all the stuff that Jensen's working on, and the stuff that Amazon's doing in their warehouses, and you start to see the possibilities of the physical and the digital worlds now coming together. And it's a pretty wild place.
Good time to be in tech.
Yes. Yeah, right. Good time to be in tech.
Absolutely.
That's it. It's better than sports, guys. Thanks so much, and congratulations on the collaboration and the success, and hope to have you back soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
All right, take
Thank
care.
you very much.
All right, and thank you for watching. This wraps up our coverage, day 4, 4-day wall-to-wall coverage live here at AWS reInvent 2025. I'm Dave Vellante for John Furrier, the whole CUBE crew. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Go to thecube.net, siliconangle.com, thecuberesearch.com. Don't forget to check out thecubeai.com. Ask it questions, you'll get answers. Thanks for watching. This is theCUBE. We're out.